I will strive to follow the outline. Thank you.
It's okay. Why do you think I have notes?
It works when you work it, and that's what we're talking about today. But first, I want to thank my friends, my brothers, and my sisters who are helping make this a perfect day. We're going to have some fun. So in August, we're talking about spiritual mind treatment. What is it? Why do we call it that name? And how do we make it work for us? So how many people woke up this morning with thoughts of, this is going to be a rough day, or God, I'm overweight, or that job's just getting me down, I'm not sure I'm up to it. The thoughts of limitation that can sometimes take over are what we're talking about getting rid of in a very effective way today. It's the argumentative method that I call it. The title is Affirmations and Denials in Prayer. We call it treatment because there's an analogy with our health and the treatment of an ailment. And what we are striving to do, and I'm living proof of it, is use spiritual mind treatment to purge that blockage, that sense of limitation, the false belief that I'm not good enough, and get it out of my head. I use the argumentative method to deny those limiting thoughts, those limiting habits, and I fill that void with the truth, the spiritual truth of who I am, that I am perfect, whole, and complete, that Spirit made each and every one of us with love, and there is a divine creator, a loving spirit of the universe out there that wants only the highest and best for each and every one of us. Spiritual mind treatment treats that spiritual element. So that's why our founder used that term, because it is truly an ailment. It is not what our divine creator wants. And even though we would all like to have an easy button, to make this day go perfect, the reality is, in this life anyway, I've got to work it. And so I love this image because as a guy, maybe there's some natural combativeness in me. Because when some of those thoughts of limitation, those thoughts of I'm not good enough, those thoughts that I'm just stuck in this dead-end job, I get annoyed, I get irritated, I get angry, and then I get to pray about those too. But knowing where I am and knowing who I am, which is what this faith has allowed me to do, I'm able to identify those thoughts. I'm able to identify those limitations in my thinking and consciously write them down, look at them, and verbally reject them, get them out of my mind. I'm going to ace that test. I am going to laugh when I completely forget the sequence of the service. And then I'm going to be incredibly grateful because I have brothers and sisters here that I know love me. And I know every single person here, just like me, is looking for that rich experience inside that says, I know I'm good enough. And that knowledge is completely invulnerable to any situation, any condition, any other person. It's untouchable. That is the essence of this relationship with Spirit, that developing the habits of spiritual mind treatment, or affirmative prayer as we call it, those habits get us there. They get me to that point, and it has to be a daily habit. It has to be something that I recognize that little pinch, I recognize something's not quite right, and I take a breath. I step back. Okay, what is that? It almost always comes down to a sense of inadequacy, a little bit of fear. I'm not as thin as I used to be. I could go down the list. It is a disciplined process. And what Reverend Rick was talking about the last couple of weeks is Ernest Holmes, our founder, taught us this 5-step process. And when I first came in, I thought, I'm an engineer, I'd apply a process to just about anything, but this one's kind of dorky. But the reality is, it is his application of the scientific method to living spiritually. And the scientific method says if I follow the same process, I will get the same result. And the spiritual laws that we're using in our faith are universal laws. One of the foundational premises of our faith is that regardless of the religion, of the major world religions out there, there are universal principles that apply no matter what. And the beauty of this is it takes the argument out of any religious discussion, because as I give, so I receive. As I treat others the way I want to be treated, there are basic principles that no matter the belief system, they come out. And because they are healthy on their surface by basic inspection, back to my scientific method analogy, because they universally work all the time. Dr. Holmes collected some of these, and then he taught this method to people who like me, grew up with some real hang-ups with the traditional religious God that I was raised with. And he introduced this loving God that put a few laws out there for us to follow. And the spiritual mind treatment process allows me, through my own conviction and my own belief, to engage those laws for a higher purpose, for good, for love, for the positive attributes of God. And so as I learn those, I am essentially retraining my mind. And as I practice them every day, I am building up a lifetime of habits that when I'm under stress, when I'm in a difficult situation, when life's not going my way, I can fall back on those. Those habits become natural to me. So I know that when my daughter has issues or I have issues, it is a situation, it is a condition, it is a screen between me and my spiritual knowing that it is perfect, that I am perfect, that my Creator put me here with love. My Creator didn't put any of us here to be miserable, to be limited, to be sad, to believe in inadequacy. So this argumentative method we're going to talk about a little bit. I'm going to give some examples. I'm going to share probably a little bit more about my life experience than anybody really needs to know. And the intent would be to come out of here with a question in your mind. What do I really believe about me, who I am? When I look in the mirror, do I see an overweight white guy who really sees that 25-year-old inside, who really sees that sense of endless optimism and hope and joy? Or do I see an over-the-hill, on the downside slope of life? No, I see the good-looking 25-year-old. And it's that joy, it's that fun of recognizing it and accepting it and knowing it. So when life throws stuff, it doesn't touch me, because I can settle back into that knowing. And my higher power, my God, that spirit of the universe, is right there inside me, right there under my back of my shoulder. It is a beautiful discovery. And to keep it fresh and to keep it sharp, if there are things that habitually block you, the not good enough one is common. Fear of new things. What is that false belief that just seems to bite you in the butt all the time? Self-knowledge allows me to identify it, using this argumentative method to reject it. God, I don't need that. Take it back into the universe, let it dissipate. It has no energy over me. I know I'm good enough. And I embrace that wholeness. I embrace that energy. I embrace that knowledge that I am absolutely good enough. I am no better, no worse than any other of God's creatures, and I am damn well good enough. That process and that habit, over time, for me, has allowed me to get rid of some of that negative baggage that was keeping me blocked from Spirit. But I have to be honest with myself and know. Look at it, use a practitioner, use someone at the time who's wiser than me, who's less crazy than me, who can hear my situation and my story and poke through it and see the beauty of Spirit, see that truth behind whatever it is that's blocking me. And then once I acknowledge it, I can use this argumentative method to push it away, get rid of it. And then embrace that beauty and that knowledge that I am perfect. And I'll know that I'm successful when throughout my day I'm seeing the good, when I'm seeing the beauty, when I see my wife and she's still 25. I see through the mask. I see through the situation to that beauty and that perfection that's all around me. And if I pay attention to it, I come to know it. I become more sensitive to it. And then that sixth sense of Spirit, the miracle there is I become receptive to it. Because I've put myself in a good mental place. I'm consciously working to see and sense and hear and feel the good, because it's everywhere around me. And as I open myself up, I become more sensitive to it, and it allows me to hear that still small voice of Spirit in my ear. We call it a sixth sense, but in reality it's that divine wisdom that is there for each and every one of us. That divine wisdom that tells me to take that opportunity, that tells me to take that risk, that tells me, yeah, I do want to have a second hug. I like hugs. And it builds on itself and becomes stronger and stronger part of the personality. But the easy button's not there. At least for me. I love this cartoon. Who hasn't sat in traffic and the horn's not doing it? But at the same time, I can take that apparent limiting condition of frustration, of annoyance, or of boredom, and I can enjoy the Maserati that's next to me, who I know will get out of the way of my rusty car if I need to get over. Right? And I can find the goodness and the beauty in any situation. My state of mind, our state of mind, does not need to be dependent upon any situation or condition. That's a choice. And learning this process and adopting this process in life gives me the power to make that choice. I found this beautiful faith. On the 25th of January, 2009, and I'm in a 12-step program for drugs and alcohol now. And I was raised with a traditional Orthodox Catholic God, where I was born in sin, I'm doomed to hell. God judges me every day. And I got the hell out of there. I went to the Air Force, and I swore I would never step foot in that church again, because I was my own God. And that worked for a few years. The closest I came to praying was, I think I was 23 or 4, and I was monitoring a rocket test at Edwards Air Force Base. And the damn thing blew up on us. And I was working with a little Filipino lady, and I grabbed her and took off up the hill as fast as I could, and my prayer was, God, get me out of this. That was the extent that I took to praying for a long time. And after a while, that lifestyle caught up with me. And a man who became my friend and mentor and sponsor agreed to meet me at Sagewood Middle School, just down the road here, same layout. And Dr. Vernon was on the podium. He had this really cool purple streak in his hair at that time. And they sat me down next to other people who would not be too offended by how I smelled. And for the first time as an adult at least, I sensed unconditional love. I sensed acceptance on the part of every person who was around me. And that just didn't make any sense to me, because I'd been my own God for a long time. And it worked pretty damn well for quite a while. But I got to that point of being broken and acknowledging I needed some help. And in the world of 12-step recovery, the key premise is we have to find a power greater than ourselves. What's the difference between me and God? God doesn't think he's me, right? And so you have to find a higher power if you want to get that obsession with that lifestyle out of the system. And the only way it's going to stay out is if I fill it with something else, and that's a higher power. That's a God. That's a divine spirit. That's the creator. I have a dear friend who says this, it's his dog. A doorknob. It doesn't matter. It is a power greater than me. And that step into humility of accepting who and what I am. I made that step on 25th of January, 2009. And it was because of the love and acceptance of the people in this room. The spirit of, there is this loving God. There is a loving God who wants me to be happy, who wants me to be joyous, who wants me to be free, who wants me to be successful. And the process of learning how to pray, knowing that's what my higher power wants from me, it allows me to adopt the process of acknowledging what got me to where I am, acknowledging the limited beliefs that have me stuck in this dirty, muddy spot of life, and use this technique to reject it out of my life and fill it with something that is wholesome and healthy and loving. Not too long after that, some of y'all know Reverend Mike Ryan. Part of a healthy spiritual journey in this life is being of some use to others. And I had spent my life, I am the most important thing in the world. And he put me to work in service for this spiritual community. I was talking with Dr. Jim Strunk before the meeting. The joy and the beauty of the community, of giving back, of getting outside of myself, is another one of the action steps in a healthy spiritual life, because it engages that universal law I talked about. As I give, so I receive, the law of reciprocity. Some people call it karmic. If I get out of myself and help others, and in this spiritual path, helping them is to discover that beautiful shining light, that warm, loving spirit of the Creator in our lives. And that got me well. The combination of the God, the Spirit of the universe, as we accept it as faith and following the 12 steps and living those 12 steps, it got me well. How does that work? So I'll give an example of how this miracle has worked in my life. But remember, this process is focusing my mind. It is disciplining my mind. And in my life, I haven't had to do that. I'm disciplining my mind. I am developing healthy habits. A repeatable process that I know works. Embracing and bringing in that higher spirit, that power into my life. And for me, over time, it replaces that unhealthy lifestyle, that unhealthy set of thoughts. And the example I want to use is, I guess it's been just over 6 years ago now. I love to fish, and I was out in Montana for about a week on the Crow Reservation. Some wonderful fly fishing. But there have been some heavy rains lately, and the crows, unbeknownst to me, had a pretty good stock of illegal pesticides they'd been using. And those pesticides had drained down into these pools on the edge of the river and evaporated and concentrated. And I'd walked through those pools for several days and got a lot of that poison in my system. So on the way back from Montana, I got really ill. So the first miracle happens. As part of this faith, and my 12-step program, which includes I've got to make amends to those I've harmed, which first on the list is my wife. We had managed to fall in love with each other again, and she actually took me to the hospital instead of putting me to bed like she would have done a few years earlier. And checked me into the hospital, and I'm on this hard board strapped down. And the doc looks at my wife and says, does he have any advanced directives on file? And does he have a do not resuscitate order? Because he's not going to make it through the night. And I remember hearing this. And the doc told my wife he's so dehydrated, he's in complete renal failure. And what he wants to do. And at that point, this sense of overwhelming peace and love and acceptance just came over me. And I had this knowing that if this is my time for my next phase, so be it. I had cleaned up my life. I had spent the last few years living as good and upright and righteous a life as I could. I had made my amends to everyone I had harmed. I had my daughters back, who had hated my guts for a long time. I had my wife's love back, who used to leave when she knew I was coming home. I had my career back. And I had been a good person. And I thought, this is my time. And this is my time. I wasn't sad. I wasn't scared. I was in the embrace of this incredibly loving spirit. And right about then, the head of surgery came in. He was subbing for one of his guys. It was a sunny night. And he took the bed up vertical with my head pointed to the floor and massaged me, and he found the veins in my neck. Put IVs in. But he told my wife he's still probably not going to make it. His organs have shut down. So much to my surprise, I woke up a day later in critical condition, but I was alive. And about 4 days later, they let me out of the hospital. And that sense of I'm okay. And that knowing there is a higher power, there is a spirit of the universe. This universal presence is absolutely real because she was holding me in her arms right then. And the miracle gets better. They told me your organs are damaged. And as part of my drinking and drugging, I had 2 heart attacks. Things like moderation were words I didn't really understand for a long time. And they said the combination of blowing your heart up and then filling your organs full of drugs, you're going to have a short life. Just get yourself prepared for that. It's okay. Well, I'm going to keep serving people I love. I'm going to keep taking my daughters out on dates. I am going to continue to be the best man I can be. I'm also going to recommit myself to this faith. And I did. I'm taking classes. I'm using the argumentative form of prayer to reject the health limitation, to reject the damage to my organs, and to know that I am healthy, I am perfect, whole, and complete. My body rejuvenates, recovers. My body is healthy, and bringing the positive thoughts into my mind. And I completely forgot to use my slides. Another couple of years pass. I'm working with two guys who share our faith, and we're using the 12 steps. We're using the mirror image process, which is the science of mind, of rejecting the things that are false, rejecting the things that are limiting, and embracing the truth of wholeness and spirit. And I'm taking action, not just in prayer. My docs told me you have no chance in hell, so I found an alternative doctor who said he thought he might be able to help me. I found diet and lifestyle things. So I am going to live my belief that my body is whole. I went back to the doctors. They did a complete workup. They didn't believe it, so I went down to the VA. The VA did another complete workup. My organs were fine, completely recovered. That doesn't happen. The doctors say that can't happen. So I kept committing myself to this healthy set of habits, this healthy lifestyle, this healthy approach to living and loving others. And I had another miracle a little over a year ago. I had a detailed workup. Again, I paid a lot of money to a civilian doc, and then I went to the VA. They said my heart had repaired itself. I had seen the MRIs. I had seen the scarring. I had seen the damage. And they showed me the pictures. And the damage was gone. So much for this doesn't happen. Right? So much for the belief in limitation. I was able to transform the sense of limited belief and inadequacy, and I'm just a drunk, I'm crazy. This is never going to work out. I'm just going to die young and I'll go to hell. All my friends are there. And I was able to transform that belief system through this regular habit of affirmative prayer. And I'm going to give up on this job thing pretty quickly. Many of us, if not all of us, get to that point in life where we've had that spiritual P-platform right between the eyes. Whether it's health or whether it's relationships or whether it's maybe I'm not the smartest person in class or I guess you ought to fill in your own mind because you know what it is. And when that happens, what am I going to do? Am I going to go, shit, I'll just watch soap operas all day, my life's over all. You know, my best friend Genevieve and I will just check out. Or, my God is saying, I hit you with a 2x4. What are you going to do? Am I going to get off up my rear? That came out wrong again, didn't it? I'm going to get up and I'm going to take action. And the tools in this faith give me and you the opportunity to take action, to reject those limiting beliefs, to acknowledge the truth in yourself, to accept that I am a divine creation of this universal, omnipotent power of the universe that created everything, to know that only the best and highest and greatest and joy, that is our birthright. It is not misery, limitation, this nonsense called sin. No. This is an opportunity for each and every one of us to have this wonderful uplifting, rewarding, joyous life. We can jump on it, or we can wait for another 2x4. And for a lot of us, if you're like me, that means you're probably dead or in jail. So I ask you this. Did you wake up this morning with that limiting thought? And if you did, what did you do? That beautiful songs that Angie sang. Did I work it? Did I work it? Did I say, I am perfect, whole, and complete? My back feels great today. I'm going to stretch out. I'm going to make what I just said true because I'm going to get my body loosened up. I'm going to have a healthy breakfast. Today is absolutely beautiful and wonderful. Or did I say, gosh, I'm just fat. My back hurts. I just don't know about this day. Well, I guess I'll get dressed. It's a choice. It's a choice to identify and face that limiting belief and get rid of it. And embrace the truth. Embrace the truth and then take action to make that truth reality in my life. It's a choice we face many times a day. So what are you going to do? Write it down. Look at it. Say it. What are those things that are limiting me? Write out the prayer. I reject these things. They're not part of me. I own the spiritual truth of whatever the situation or condition is. It is mine. I am what I'm saying. And the opportunity is right there for each and every one of us. I'm going to close with prayer. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to share a little bit of my life with these people that I love. Thank you for this congregation. Thank you for this wonderful day. Thank you for the lessons of science and mind that each and every one of us can use for a happy, affirmative, uplifting life. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. I release my word, knowing this day unfolds perfectly for each